Welcome. Oh. Welcome, Dami. Welcome, Gbemi. Hello. I don't know. I think you guys came in at the same time. Hello. Reduce. And let him over. Welcome. How was our day, or how has our day been? How is our day starting? Welcome to the parenting journey with Blessing. And it's great to have us here today. So I feel like I have plenty of people in the house. Welcome. Hi. How was your day today, Bemi? And Dami, how's your day starting? We just wait for a very little bit and we just start since we have people here today. My day was hectic. Oh, busy. Wow. And it's morning time. It's already busy. Well done. Yesterday was something else for me. Actually, the children were homeschooled yesterday. They schooled from home. So it was something else on me. It was so much work. Like I had forgotten about having to get on Zoom links and have classes and classwork, homework. So yesterday was that day. Today was still calm. Welcome. So we'll be talking about how to talk to our children so they can listen. My name remains Blessing Oladimeji, and welcome to the parenting journey with Blessing. Good to have us here today. It's a great honor. I don't take it for granted to have people I'm speaking with today. And I'm also ready to learn from us, because the parenting journey with Blessing is all about holding each other's hands on the parenting journey so that we can realize that we all go through most things that are similar as parents. So I'm excited that we're talking today about how to talk so our children can listen. So on a scale of 0 to 10, how much would you say your children listen when you give instructions to them? On a scale of 0 to 10, how much would you say your children listen? Okay, Gimi said our day was great. My day was easy, was calm. It was good too. So on a scale of 0 to 10, how would you say your children listen to your instructions? Okay, so since we're typing, let's just continue. I guess actually that most of the frustration that parents have has a lot to do with children not listening. And that's why we have African parents that shout. Dami says on a scale of 0 to 10, it depends on the type of instruction. Yes, true. Our children sometimes select the instruction to listen to, and they just leave some out and don't listen to it. Bemi says 4 over 20. Okay, 4 out of 10. They must really be little children. Anyway, I know your children are little, so wow, 4 out of 10. So I was saying that I think the shouting that most parents shout is because our children do not listen to our instructions all the time. We just want to tell our child move, and our child will move. We want to tell our child sit, and our child will sit immediately. And I think that's what men have. So we have this fathers have this aura that they just have. Like, they just come and just tell the child, leave that place. And we see that the children actually move. In fact, that was the changing point on the parenting journey with my princess. I realized that they listened to their father immediately when they were much younger compared to myself. So I said, what is this man doing differently? So I always believe that most mothers shout because we're frustrated. Our children are not listening, especially if we have more than one child. Can you imagine now what our children's teachers go through in class with many children in the classroom? And this is why I actually look at our children. I look at the teachers of our children, and I'm always amazed that, can you imagine, how do teachers do this? See, teachers are wonderful people. Teachers are amazing, especially classroom teachers. I don't know how they do it. You have 10 different students in your class with 10 different personalities, and you're still able to dish out instructions, and they're able to listen. It is actually a big deal. It's a big deal. So can you now imagine we have one child, 2 children at home, and they're not listening to our instructions? Seriously, teachers are heroes. Thank you, Zien. Welcome. Teachers are actually heroes. And I always say all parents are teachers. We're not classroom teachers, but all parents are teachers. So this tells us that parents are always teaching, always doing a great job. Yes. So different personalities in the class, and parents and the teachers are able to hold the children together. Really, teachers are heroes. Please give it to any teacher you know. Let me clap for them right now. Yeah. So when children do not listen to our instructions, many things happen which we need to look at. And I want us to look at these things together. So what worked for me is what I'll be sharing with us. And on a scale of 0 to 10, if I'm going to say my children listening to instructions, I'm going to give them 7. I'll give them 7. And it's those little tricks here and there that I'm about to share with us today. So when we realize that our children are not taking to certain instructions, we need to sit as parents, take a back seat, and ask ourselves some questions. So this is what has worked for me. I ask myself some questions. I ask, what am I doing wrong? What am I doing wrong? I ask, why is my child doing what my child is doing? Sometimes we actually need to reflect, because the truth is sometimes we're actually doing things to our children which makes them react to us. We're probably not asking the right questions. We're probably not saying the right things. And this might be why our children do not listen to some of our instructions. And we all want our children to listen. Who doesn't want the child to listen? I'm not sure any parents will say they do not want their child to listen. So I want to confidently say all parents want their children to listen to instructions. And this is why when we notice our child is not taking to certain instructions, we're asking ourselves, what am I doing wrong, or what am I not doing right? We're asking ourselves, how have I contributed to what my child is doing? We need to know, does my child understand me? You know, it's interesting that sometimes our children do not understand what instruction has been given. And this is why they will not take to any instruction. So you need to ask yourself as a parent, does my child understand this instruction? And if our children has reached a certain age and they can talk, we might want to ask them, what do I mean by saying do this? What does that mean? And in all honesty, our children will answer us because they like to talk, they like to dialogue, they like to have conversations with adults. So we want to ask ourselves, what am I not doing? In fact, something happened just this evening. My first prince, so I use blade to pencil. I use blade to sharpen pencils. I don't believe in the sharpeners I have. They just seem weak. So I use blade for my children, and I'm the only one that can use blade. So one of my princes came and gave me a pencil and said, Mom, my pencil, I need to sharpen my pencil. So I said, okay, I need blade for this, and I cannot send you, because that was Prince 2. So I said I was going to send Prince 1. It's Prince 1 I trust. It's going to be 10. So I trust him to just bring the blade. The blade is still in the paper. So he can just bring it to me from where it was. So I told him, I said, go to my room and go to my bathroom. I said, go to my bathroom and bring the blade. You'll find it in my bathroom. And he came back and he was like, he didn't find it. So I then realized that I said, I did not give him a proper instruction of where to find what he went to pick. I was actually supposed to tell him, okay, it's wrapped in certain paper. This is the color. Thank you. Welcome, Shiju. Good to see you. Yeah. So, I realized that I did not give proper instruction. So before you came, let's just say what we had said just before you both joined. I can see that 2 people joined while we were talking about this. We said when our children do not listen to instructions, we might want to sit and ask ourselves questions. So as parents, the first people to ask questions are ourselves. We want to be sure, does my child understand this instruction? So it's not like our children do not want to listen. Sometimes they honestly do not understand what we have told them to do. We want to ask, is there something I am doing wrong that I'm supposed to adjust? We want to ask ourselves. They want to ask the child, why are you doing this? So we don't just assume, we don't just generalize, we don't just think of things that are really not true on why our children are not taking to our instructions. We all want our children to take instructions. So there was something I heard one day from one of my mentors. Like, she's my boss, she's a principal, and we call her the principal of FSC. So she said something one day, and just that statement she said answered to a lot of questions that I had in my mind concerning one of my princes at that time. She said something. She said, a disobedient child is a discouraged child. Those lines were enough. A disobedient child is a discouraged child. So I sat and I started thinking about it. I started thinking, are my children discouraged in any way? Is there something I am doing? Is there something their dad is doing to discourage them indirectly, unintentionally, unconsciously? Because the truth is, most of the things we do with our children, we're unconscious about. We don't know. And our children too do not know. But we need to work together so that we can give them instructions and they can take to our instructions. So I remember that when I listened to that statement, she just said it that day. She said, a discouraged child, a disobedient child rather, is a discouraged child. So I remember that at that time, my first prince was asking for something that we had not done in a very long time. So I called him up. I said, come, why have you not been doing this thing? Because, he just stopped taking to instructions the way he would usually do. So I said, can this boy be discouraged? So I called him. I said, come, let's talk. Are there some expectations you have about mom and dad, about the home, that you think can be better? And I asked him. And he said, yes. He said, he's been asking for a bicycle for a very long time, and we have not answered him. And we actually mentioned that after his exams, if his result was good, he was going to get the bicycle. And I was like, oh my goodness, can you imagine? Because the boy actually had taken, he had played his own part by doing well at school. So he was just expecting the bicycle and he did not get it. So he started acting out. He started acting up. He started displaying some disobedience, so to speak. So we realized that, oh, okay, this is what is really going on. So there was a time that we actually had a family meeting also, and we're talking about how they will enjoy their holidays. So they were all given different places they wanted to visit, they wanted to go. And one of my princes mentioned that he actually wanted to go to see the rocks. He wanted to climb the rocks, the mountains. I just told my husband, this boy, we have to make this thing happen so that we don't discourage this boy. And you won't believe that we sat down, we had the family meeting, they all talked about what they wanted, and we told them, see, our children listened when we explained to them. We told them that you cannot have everything you want, but we'll make sure you have one of what you have mentioned. So that period, it was not easy. I actually had to travel with him. I took him out of Lagos so that he could just climb the rocks. And he came back, it was very different. He became very obedient, listening, like things he would normally do, he had stopped doing. He started doing them. And that's why I said a disobedient child can just be a discouraged child. There's nothing wrong with that child. He can just be discouraged. And you know that some children do not have words. Now, we have lots of special needs children, and we understand what it means. It's not easy to have a special needs child because they don't have words. They really want to express themselves. So it looks like they're screaming, they're shouting, they're actually discouraged, they're frustrated. Let me use that word. They're actually frustrated. And so that's why we have to hold the child of that child, hold the hands of a special needs child, look the child in the eyes and, just hug the child and say, you've got me. They can listen. They might not have words, but they can hear. Say, Mom is here for you. What do you want? How can I help you? And I pray that our children will call us blessed, 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 blessed in Jesus' name. Okay, so there's a part in my book. Parenting is Huge is my book. If you haven't gotten my book, you need to get it. I'm actually running a discount right now. The discount is $3,900 because it's my birthday next week. So it starts from, the discount has started 2 days ago till 21st of October. So if you want to get it, get that book. And there's something I want to share about that book that will help our children listen to us more. It's shared in part 4 of that book, Parenting is Huge, which is my book. And that part talks about intentionally growing with our children. The way we look at our children and all we see is a child. We don't see a tiny adult. Of course, they are children. We don't see that, okay, the difference between us and children is that we came earlier than them. Trust me, that's the only difference. We have experience more than them. For now, for now, we know most things that they do not know because they are still little or they are still teenagers. So because we have passed through that path before. So I want us to have it in mind that we should intentionally grow with our child. When your child is age 2, there's a certain way you talk to that child at home and outside the home. When your child is age 5, there's a certain way you talk to that child at home and outside the home. Same goes with a child 10, a child of 12 years, a child of 15, a child of 17, 18, and plus. There's certain ways to talk to these children. You cannot afford to embarrass your teenager outside or even your 5-year-old child. No. Because all of a sudden, the emotional health of our children is more pronounced in this 21st century compared to our times. Who cared about emotional health when we were growing up? I'm not sure anyone cared about mine. I don't know. Maybe my parents did. But now, that's why we shout on children and they cry. You don't beat them, they start crying. It's their emotional health. So we need to intentionally grow with our children. We grow with them with their ages. We understand that, okay, this child is now 10. There's a certain way to treat a 10-year-old child. So you don't talk to your 12-year-old child the same way you talk to your 5-year-old child. That child might not take that instruction. Yes, that child might just decide not to listen. Because the child feels, why is she embarrassing me? Why is she shouting at me? I'm not a child anymore. So you have a 10-year-old child telling you, I'm not a child anymore. My Prince 4 is going to be 3. It's 4. It's going to be 5 in January. And he keeps saying, Mom, I'm not a baby. And he starts mentioning all the babies that he can actually carry. That, Mom, I'm not a baby anymore. So how much more your 10-year-old child? Okay, so someone says, Chechiki says, I was about to mention our parents did not send our emotions back then. No. No. Most parents did not care about our emotions then, because there are many things to look at. You don't just change a child from a school without consulting the child. No, you need to ask. Yes, you need to ask. You need to let a child know what is going on in the home. Are you moving to a new place? You have to let the children know that. You have to discuss with them, have conversations with them as they grow older. So I said that there are facts I want to talk about, facts about children that we need to, parents, we need to intentionally remember. The first thing is every parent was once a child. We were all children. Every one of us. And one major thing that helps me on the parenting journey is I think I am in touch with my childhood a lot. I don't know why, but I'm always in touch with my childhood. So I ask myself, when I was 5, when I was 10, how did I feel when my parents said certain things to me? I'm still in touch. So I just have that thing, like I just ask my parent, I just ask myself, how did I feel as a child? Every parent was once a child. We need to remember that. We were all children at a point in our lives. So we must always remember that when relating with our children. If we want our children to listen, there are certain things to do with them. There are certain ways to talk to them. There are certain interactions to have with them. We were all children, so every parent was once a child. Once a child. And the same emotions we felt then, our children too feel. The only difference is our emotions were probably not bothered about then, or then the world was not talking about emotional health compared to now. Another fact I want us to know is that parenting requires patience. I always say as a parent, I learned to drink the water of patience. I have drank the water of patience because as a child, children are just children. Children will be children. A child can see something, maybe they see someone outside looking funny, looking in a different way, and they can stare. They're just being children. So she just says the world was actually very quiet. Any children's emotions then, with children's emotions then, yes, the world was very quiet. Yeah, so we're talking about, people are dropping points now, talking about the emotions of, compare our emotions then to the emotions of our children now in the 21st century. So Chechuki says our mom was even threatening that she could come over to the assembly ground to tell the old school something occurred at home. Can you imagine? Can you just imagine? So if your parent did that to you, can I see your hand up? Or if they threatened to go to the assembly. It was so annoying. Very, very annoying. Yeah, because they didn't care. Yeah, but as she just said, the world was actually very quiet. Yeah, true. Lots of things are going on in our world now compared to then that helps us to see that things have actually changed. And this is why we cannot parent our children the same way we were parented. So the first fact I talked about is every parent was once a child. And the second is parenting requires patience. I think the first time it dawned on me that parenting actually requires patience was when I was pregnant. When I was pregnant, I just sat one day, I was like, why can't this pregnancy be 3 months or 4 months? But later I realized that it can't be 3 months, it can't be 6 months. In fact, see what happens when we have to give birth to a baby and it's not full term. The baby is premature, the baby has to go to the incubator, the baby has to go to the NICU, that's a new intensive care unit, and lots happens there. So parenting requires patience, and for me, parenting starts from the pregnancy stage. That's when I think parenting starts. So it requires patience. Yeah, Apple says they used to punish at the assembly ground back then. Yes, parents will report from home and the school will actually punish the child. She just says, patience with our children now is spiritual. Oh. If you don't take it easy on yourself, you'll break down. I've had to slow down without being told. God bless you. See, they won't even teach you sometimes. You just calm down. You calm down. I have 3 boys. How much do I want to do in the house? Sometimes I just look at them and they are playing in a very funny way. And you know what they will tell me? Mom, we're boys. But this is how boys play. Girls don't play like this. And I'll say, okay, just don't hurt yourselves. You can play. So parenting requires patience. We need to understand each child individually. Look at your child, observe them individually, and you'll see that they are very different. They are different, and when we observe them individually, we'll see that we'll be patient, we'll be more patient with them. Another fact is we have to talk to our children the right way. So there is a right way to talk so our children can listen. We need to learn to talk to our children the right way. Age-appropriate conversations are very important. When talking to our children, we need to remember their ages. How old is this child? The second thing we need to remember is their development milestone. At what milestone is my child developing? What level? Children are different. You know why children are different? Because they are doing different things at the same time. And this is why we cannot compare children. Some years ago, I saw a mother and she was very angry with her child. Her child was 1 year plus and her child was not walking yet. Her child was crawling. And she was telling her child, what's wrong with you? Lazy boy. You can imagine a mother calling the child lazy. Lazy boy. Can't you walk? Can't you see your mates walking? Can't you walk? So I just replied, I said, Mother, he's not lazy. He's taking his time. That's the first thing. I said, the second thing is this. Look at his teeth. I said, he has grown a lot of teeth. I said, so he can't do plenty of things at the same time. So she was just laughing. I said, but that's the truth. Children do things at different times. Some children start walking at age 7 and they don't have one tooth in their mouth. So it just tells us that a child is doing something another child is not doing. So we need to talk to our children in ways they can understand. Age-appropriate conversation. Some children understand quicker than some other children. Some are very fast to understand. Some are just taking their time. Some understand and they are not showing you that you understand. You know, you have some children that when you're teaching, they act like they can't hear you. But when they start saying all you're saying, you're looking like, okay, so you heard me that time. That's just that child. So we need to understand children. We need to understand how children are. We need to understand to talk to them the right way in an age-appropriate manner. And also having their development milestone at the back of our mind. And when talking to our children, if we want them to listen as parents, we need to be creative. We really need to be creative. So I remember waking up my children from when they were little, when they were like very, very tiny. When they started going to school, was the time I remember I really started waking them up in the morning. And I'm not sure any child wants to jump up in the morning. The same no adult really wants to jump up in the morning when the alarm bell goes. We want to sleep and keep sleeping. So how do we get creative with our children? I'm going to give an example of how I started waking up my children in the morning, and it was a breeze. We didn't have to struggle about it. I go to the room and I'm like, guys, mom is feeling sleepy right now. She just has to wake up because she has to do things. And you guys have to wake up because you have to go to school. So I'm like, I let them know that I am feeling sleepy too. I don't want to get up. Okay. So Shiji Royal says, this taking their time that they take for 6 hours after instruction dishes us it's not encouraging. It can upset mom. We have a teenager and preteen, and it's not easier even with all talks. Yes. Okay. So with teenagers, it is different. With teenagers, hey, that's another ball game. It's another level. Yes, they can actually decide not to take instructions 6 hours after. So this is why we need to talk to them about it. You need to sit with them and negotiate. You need to negotiate with them. You need to have them say when they want to do certain things. Of course, not all things. So there are ways that we can actually do this. A good example is in the home, for example, you can actually have a meeting and you talk about maybe washing the dishes at a certain time, and you attach things to it around the house. That, okay, if you have not washed the dishes let's say at 9 a.m., then you're not going to have breakfast. Do we agree? Like, we talk about it. You negotiate with your teenagers. So teenagers are very different. So the teenager's brain is really different from a child's brain. Teenagers' brain and preteens are very different. In fact, I want to tell us that even preteens now, for me, preteens have started stepping up into being teenagers more early than before. Even before they are 10, from 9, you start noticing your preteen. They start acting like they want to act strong-willed. They don't want to listen immediately. So teenagers are very, very different. Most of the time, negotiate with teenagers. Get them to tell you when they want to do certain things and hold them with their words. So they get to do that. Yes, patience is very, very necessary. So I was talking about waking children up. Sometimes I ask my children, did you go to Dreamland? Did you see mom? Did you see dad? Oh, you didn't see Barney. You didn't see this. So you get to talk about things with them that makes them laugh, or you tickle them to wake them up, depending on the child. The child that wants to just be left alone. Sometimes you just tell them something, or you remind them an event of the day that helps them jump up and they are awake. So we have to be creative if we also want our children to listen to us. My first prince is that one that I wake him in the morning and I'm like, okay, I'm coming, I'm going to do some things in the kitchen, and I can come sometimes and he's still sleeping. And I understand that as an adult too, I want to sleep. So I have to talk to him. We have to talk about it, that, okay, so let's get up. So who will be the first? Maybe mom will do this first. So I want to do this thing now. When I come, what would you have done? Would you have combed your hair by that time? Would you have worn your shoes? Would I have done, So we talk about things. I get them involved as much as possible, because we have to be creative. We all have to be creative as parents. So how do we talk so our children can listen? We've shared about the fact of our children. We've said every parent was once a child. Parenting requires patience as much as possible. And we need to answer our children in age-appropriate manners. We need to answer our children having their development milestone in mind. And we need to be creative as parents. So how do we talk so our children just listen, just answer us? We're going to share 2 today because of time. So we're going to share 2 today. I'm going to talk about it. I'm going to give us examples so that it's as practical as possible. So what have you done personally as a parent that you can say now, because of what we shared initially? We talked about sitting down to say, okay, with everything we've shared, would you say there are things you have done which has not allowed your children to listen to certain instructions? So let us share. So I'm not the only one talking. What can you say? Oh, Blessing, I wasn't doing this, so I'm going to start doing this now. Oh, Blessing, okay, maybe that is it. I'm going to start doing this. So let's just share. Let's share. Before we talk about how to talk so our children can listen. Because we all want our children to listen. Who doesn't want their child to listen? So what have we not been doing right? Okay. Let me go on. I know we're typing, and typing takes a while. So I remember when I was guilty of a certain thing. I was guilty of what I want to share. The first thing is how to talk so our children can listen is to acknowledge our children's feelings. Acknowledge their feelings. Okay, so I used to be guilty when my child just finished eating, and my child tells me, okay, yeah. My child just finished eating, and my child tells me, Mom, I'm hungry. I'm so hungry. I'm not filled up. I want more food. And I'll tell my child, that's, you're not hungry. You just finished eating. But you see what I have done there? I have denied my child's feelings. We must not deny our children's feelings. Because let us think back when we were children, and we tell our children, when we were children, and we tell our parents, or we told our parents certain things, and they denied our feelings. Okay, so we're typing now. Let's go back to what we have. Bemisola says, we sometimes give too many instructions at once. Awesome. Seriously, we just bombard them with too many instructions. So when you go to my room, you check the table, you see a pencil there. The pencil is color green. You now bring the speaker, you now take the headphones. There are too much instructions, and this is truly why our children don't listen sometimes. Thank you for that. Yeah, Ola BC Wusu Taiwo says, my son will be 2 years October ending, but not talking. I have a friend that her child will be 2 in January and she can talk. Yes, children are different. Yes, children are different. It gets to a certain age, though, that we need to really look at our children. We might need to take them in for an assessment just to be sure that everything is fine if our children are not talking at certain ages when they're older than 2 years or something. And yes, because I'm sure your child that is 2 years that is not talking is doing other things that child, the other child that is not yet 2 would be doing. So that's how it is. Children are different. We're not the same. So yes, how to talk so our children can listen. Acknowledge their feelings. Even babies, we can see when a baby is feeding. When we are feeding a baby, we are giving a baby cereal. We know when the baby is filled up. We can see it. Children give us signs. We just do not look at them. Children give us signs. They give us signs, but we need to look. Even babies give signs when they are filled up, and parents say, no, you have 2 more spoons left. You have to finish this spoon. I remember when my children were growing, when they were babies and I was feeding them, and they have like 3 spoons left. Sometimes they would throw up everything to show me that you gave me food. I told you I was filled up. They will now show me and vomit everything. So children always give us signs. We need to acknowledge their feelings. Bimisola says we sometimes disturb their fun. Awesome. And that is the truth. Why our children do not listen sometimes is because we disturb their fun. They are having, there's a certain way our children should do things that we should not interrupt them. There are some things they are doing with their brain. It might look like nothing to us. See, a child can be riding a car in a particular position. It is wrong to just grab that car from that child. No, something is going on in that child's brain. So we cannot afford to just do things anyhow. No. Our children are awesome. Our children are amazing. Sometimes we disturb their fun, and that's why they don't listen. So there's something I always share that I intentionally told myself to respect my children when they watch television. I don't just switch off the television. It doesn't happen. I always tell them ahead. I keep coming. After this episode, we're going to switch off the television. And after we switch off the television, it's bath time. So when children also can anticipate things ahead, it helps them to listen to certain instructions. They don't feel like you just batched on them and just called them out. Like Baby Sola said, we sometimes truly disturb their fun. So we need to acknowledge our children's feelings. I told you I used to be guilty. My child will finish eating and say, Mom, I'm so hungry. It's okay. I can feel my child is not hungry because I have given my child a certain size or portion of food. But I should not deny my child's feelings. You know what that does? It confuses children. When we continue to deny our children's feelings, oh, I'm tired. You can't be tired. You just woke up. What are we doing? We're denying their feelings. Oh, I'm cold. You can't be cold. Everybody is hot. What are we doing? We're denying our children's feelings. We should not deny their feelings. Their feelings is special and unique to them. We might not agree, but we should not deny their feelings. We should acknowledge their feelings. And how do we acknowledge their feelings? There was a day my third prince told me he was hungry after he had had dinner. So he slept late that day, which I understood why he actually was hungry, because adults were eating at a very late time. And he was like, Mom, I'm hungry. I want to have dinner again. So I said, okay, awesome. Thankfully, you're saying again. So you already know you've had dinner. One, you're hungry, right? Yes, I know you're hungry because you said you're hungry. So I believe you're hungry. So I want you to go and sleep now so that you will have breakfast first thing in the morning after you have your bath. You have breakfast. Now tell me, what do you want for breakfast? Do you want bread and peanut butter, or do you want bread and jam? That was how I changed his conversation. And he was like, okay, Mom, I'm going to sleep now and I want peanut butter and bread in the morning. Can you imagine if I did not acknowledge his feelings? If I told him he wasn't hungry? Even adults, we know it. If we stay too long, before sleeping, we can get hungry. So children feel the same things that we feel. We need to understand that. They feel the same thing that we feel. Okay, so I've given an example of that. I just gave an example of how we talk to our children. Another thing is, if a child is watching a movie, or let me say a teenager now. If your teenager is watching a certain movie, and parents, we like everything to be educational, intellectual. Your teenager can say, I find this very boring. This movie is so boring, or the news is so boring. Because I remember growing up, our parents get us to sit to watch the news. Man, it was boring as children. Then I was always so bored. So now, if I want my children to watch the news, I can actually realize that how did I feel as a child? It was boring. So at that time, when your child says this movie is boring, or your teenager says this news is boring, or this match is boring, it is not our duty to deny their feelings and say it's not boring. It is educational. It is intellectual. No, we shouldn't do that. Their feelings are unique to them. So it is not in our place to say, don't say that. We should actually acknowledge their feelings, and we can actually validate their feelings. Okay, I hope we're getting something. We're getting something here today. All right. So we have our parents respond. I wanted to say something. Okay, so someone says something. Chichiki says, even little habits, chewing nails, humming habits when engrossed in an activity, biting nails and other open habits are not enough to shout them down, disrespect them, because even we adults have habits too. Awesome. Very, very true. We adults too have habits. We have things that we're doing, things that our parents stopped us from doing and we're still doing. So this is where we're supposed to acknowledge the feelings of our children and talk to them that, okay, how can we work together to correct this thing? That's the conversation we should be having with them. How can we work together? I want you to stop this, and mom is also going to stop this thing that mom does. So we need to acknowledge our children's feelings. So one things we don't do, we should not deny their feelings, like I said. We should not give a philosophical response to it. So when your child does not want to wake up in the morning and you tell your child, wake up, this is life. Your child tells you, I don't feel like going to school. Because of course, some adults too, we don't feel like going to work some days. So why not? Why can't our children feel the same way? Why not? So this is why we should not always give philosophical response all the time. We should not always give philosophical responses. This is life. Yes, life is hard. That's how life is. Things are costly in the market. Our children do not understand. I say our children do not even know that we pay school fees for them. Is our teenagers can start, maybe our teenagers, of course, get to know. Then because we have conversations with them, so I'm certain now that my first prince knows that we pay school fees. Because I had to tell them. Because they don't see that physical cash. They don't see us we don't give them money and say, take it to school and pay. So they don't even know that their school fees are paid. So they're just being children. So stop giving them philosophical responses that, yes, life is hard. Get up with life. They don't get it. And it's not all the time that we give advice to our children. Sometimes we let it slide. It's not all the time that we defend someone they're talking about. A good example is this. Talking about acknowledging our children's feelings. If your child comes back from school and tells you something certain about their teachers, maybe they say they don't like a certain teacher, you should acknowledge their feelings and don't tell them, your teacher is good, your teacher is nice. Or they even say something. Someone says good insight. Maybe you know yourselves. Wow. So for example, like I said, if your child comes and your child says something about the teacher, let me give you a good example. Okay, so a teacher disciplined your child at school and your child is telling you, Mom, I don't like my teacher. She actually removed my stars today and I don't like what she did. I don't even like that teacher. That teacher annoys me. She did. Don't start don't start defending the teacher. First, acknowledge your child's feelings. Yes, this is how you feel about the teacher. Oh, I know, right? You'd feel like this about your teacher. So what happened? Don't just say your teacher cannot be wrong. Your teachers are right. Don't do that to your children. So how do we help with feelings? How do we help? Because we talked about acknowledging our children's feelings. So we might not know how to even acknowledge their feelings. So how do we help our children to acknowledge their feelings? The first thing is we should listen with full attention when our children are talking. Listen with full attention and listen quietly so that we can get what they are saying about their feelings. And also acknowledge with a word. A word can be, wow, okay, interesting, really, oh my goodness, wow, seriously. At that point, our children feel like we're acknowledging their feelings. Another thing is to give their feelings a name. You might want to ask your child. I always ask my children, how does that make you feel? Do you feel sad? And they say, Mom, I don't feel sad. I was angry. I felt embarrassed. I felt betrayed. So try to ask your child, how does that make you feel? You felt angry? You felt, you allow them to express their feelings so they feel, oh, my parent gets it. So when we give them instructions next time, they know that, okay, Mom understands, they can acknowledge our feelings. And sometimes you give them wishes in fantasy. So you say, oh my goodness, so that happened to you. I wish I could just, appear in front of your classroom like a magician and just fix things at that point and give you back your stars. It helps you know that you acknowledge their feelings. So when you talk to them, they get to listen. Your child can come and tell you, Mom, somebody in my class actually took my pencil. You want to tell your child, someone took your pencil? Oh, how did that make you feel? Instead of saying, maybe you left it carelessly. Because we parents, we're fast to jump at our children. Where did you leave it? Are you the only one in the class? Were you the only one in the class? Why did they have to take your pencil? Do you have two heads? So that's an African question that our parents used to ask us while we were growing up. Do you have two heads? So children comply better when we acknowledge their feelings. So I want us to practice acknowledging our children's feelings. We won't be able to talk about the next one today because time is not on our side and it's meant to be 1 hour. And we have some introverted children or some children that don't speak much. How do we help them acknowledge their feelings when children are quiet? Sometimes you just sit beside them. You just hug them. When they're trying to show their frustration about something, you just hug them. Sit beside them. You can go to your teenager's room and just say, can I sit on your bed for some minutes? You might not talk to the child, but just sit there. They feel your presence, and your presence can actually comfort them at that time. So we must always acknowledge the feelings of our children. And the last thing I will say is this. Don't call names. Don't call names. Don't name call your children. They don't like it. Don't get to their room and say, you guys are dirty. Look at your room. No. Don't do that. Tell them how to fix their room. Tell them what to do. Tell them to put their shoes that are falling off from the shoe rack in the proper place. Tell them to put their pillows that are falling from their bed on the bed. And tell them to fold their clothes neatly in the wardrobe. I hope we have learned something new today and we're going to try it out with our children. So let's know what you've learned today. Type out what you've learned. Help me type out what you have learned. Something you're going to try. Something you've been doing wrong and you're ready to correct. Because I had to learn mine too. And I'm still learning too. Wow, amazing. Awesome. So we have awesome parents here in the house. Thank you so much, everyone, thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for being interactive. I enjoyed myself. And if you have questions too, you can put it. Yes, Baby Sola says, acknowledge my children's feelings. Shijiroya says, this name calling is number one for me. I will work on it. Thank you. Work on it. Yeah, we're all working on it. Don't worry, we're all working on it. Olabisi says, parenting is serious work. God help us. Yes, it's work. It's a lot of work. Intentional parenting is a lot of work. It's a lot of work. You'll stop name calling. Thank you. Yes, no more name calling. Yeah, the child is not dirty. The child should fix the room. It's not dirty. The child is not what other names do we say? The child is not silly. Your child is not silly. Your child is not dumb. No, don't say that. Your child is not lazy. No. Your child is not slow. No, don't say that. Talking about how they feel so they know you feel them. Great. And I'll practice acknowledging their feelings. May I not forget in the heat of the day. Yeah. So sometimes what I do is coming home, I intentionally drop everything at the door. I don't want to bring all the wahala of the day, all the stress of the day, because children do not know. And it's good to even let them know when we have a rough day. You tell your children, I had a very hectic day today. Mom is so tired. Mom wants to sleep. You just talk to them like that. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining. I enjoyed myself. I had a nice time. So we're doing this every Thursday, and it's getting better and better. Thank you everyone for joining. I care about our parenting journey. Thank you for joining. Thank you. So no question, so that we can call it an evening. Thank you for joining. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Yeah. So we're going to continue next week. That's a promise. We're going to continue next week. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you. Yeah, we'll talk about the remaining one next week. If we don't finish next week, we'll continue till we get our children to listen when we talk to them. So. Thank you for joining. Chechuki, thank you for joining. Damian Motosho, Shiji Royal, Olabisi Wusutaiwo. I don't know if I'm calling it right. Bemisola, Damian Motosho, Rudy Banjo. Okay, I'm on learning here. Thank you for this. I should not have read that. Thank you. I'm happy you're learning. I'm on learning too. We're all on the same parenting journey. P-Wombs, thank you for joining. Ebolomo, thank you for joining. Thank you. So see you next week by God's grace. So it's bye from here. Bye.